Hello, Milk Making Minutes listeners. This is Lo, the host of this podcast and an internationally board certified lactation consultant. And you might be wondering where I've been. I've been here seeing clients like crazy, going into people's homes, doing tons of virtual consults, taking care of my kids, and I had become so busy that I just needed to put the podcast on hold for a month to try to get my bearings. But you know what? I missed it and I'm back and I'm excited to be here. And I am especially excited to share this episode with you. Episode 185 is a live consultation with Elle, who shared her story previously on episode 184. And it was a doozy. And I met Elle on social media, and she reached out to have a consultation and agreed to share her consultation with my listeners. And anyone who has ever had a difficult first experience knows how much doubt that can put into your head and into your heart when you are trying to feed your second baby. Even people who typically feel very secure in the decisions they make for their family can often be filled with doubt, and that has happened. Those of you who typically watch the Milk Making Minutes on YouTube, hello, so glad you're here. And I decided to only show me for the entirety of this episode because anyone who has ever had a lactation consultation, especially virtually, knows how intimate this experience can be. And although Elle consented to being on the podcast, I just wanted to protect her privacy and her sense of self, and of course that of her little baby who cannot consent to being on video. So you're just going to see me for this one. Also just wanted to note that I did do a little bit of editing for clarity. If you notice that we talk about something that it seems like we haven't discussed before, that might be because A, Elle filled it out on her intake form, B, she mentioned it in her first story, or C, I did a little bit of editing just to shorten the episode a little bit. So with that, enjoy this live consultation. So before we get into like what's actually going on right now and what questions you have, I want to know how your first experience impacted the way that you were feeling about starting to breastfeed again.
I'm thankful that I didn't feel afraid to breastfeed again or anything. I just felt like I had to do everything I could from the very beginning to like mastitis prevention. Um, so that was my mindset because I had a few people tell me you're probably just are really prone to mastitis, and I'm like, well, great, okay. And so things like I made sure I had some Epsom salt in case I needed to soak in hot Epsom salt water, and then I had sunflower lecithin and something I read about this time that I didn't know about last time was a lot of people use castor oil and massage it in because that helps. I mean, any kind of lumps. Some women use it for mastitis. Some women use it for breast cancer. I mean, obviously it's not FDA approved or anything, but I'm going to do all that kind of stuff. So I had the mindset of starting with any mastitis prevention tips, like from the very beginning. So had my pump ready in case I had the pump.
So you feel like you're just going to really be on top of it with mastitis prevention, really, and you're hoping to
That
avoid that whole situation. So before we get into me offering any advice or tips or anything, tell me what your questions are and goals you have for this consultation.
um, I guess just to know from a certified lactation consultant that things are going all right, if they are, or if there is anything that you are concerned about at all, at least I'll know. The only thing that I feel kind of concerned about is that I've pumped a few times, and he really is nursing good and has a good latch on both sides most of the time, which is very very uh, good. But I pump every couple of days just to see how much milk is coming out of the left side,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not a lot. It's at least a third of the right side, and
Mm-hmm.
like you can tell that there are all the holes, right? There's only like one that ever streams any milk. A couple other one, maybe three, will have like a drop here and there, and so I don't know. How do I know if that is a big deal or not, or maybe it's not, and I don't know. So
Oh, okay. Tell me what you're feeding, what is like a day in the life of feeding this new little guy look like?
well, I've been nursing him mostly every 2 to 3 hours at night, and
Mhm.
then I don't really have a time.
Yeah.
I'm a very scheduled person, so I just nurse him whenever he's hungry, which I guess I feel like it's usually about every 3 hours or so, mostly.
So I don't expect you to have like a schedule or anything like that. When
Uh,
you're nursing him, and you said you think it's about every 3 hours, is that right?
Sometimes like 2 hours.
Okay.
It depends.
And, do you have a sense of, like, how many total feedings there might be in a day? And I know this is gonna vary from one day to a next, but an average.
I guess I'd say at least like nine,
Okay.
probably.
Alright. And when you're feeding, you said when you pumped on that left side, you get about a third of the amount of the right side. But so far right now, are you offering both sides at every feed?
I do, and I usually try to have him nurse on the left side, the bad side, first, because I don't know if that's doing anything, but I'm hoping it is. And I just always want him,
Mhm.
you know, and that's one thing that my mom told me too, is that especially if he's really hungry, have him nurse on that side, and he'll probably nurse more.
Right, and so does he generally, take both sides when you're offering?
I know he has to work a little bit harder on the left side, and I think he knows that by now. So sometimes he'll,
Mhm.
he'll latch on and then he'll suck a little bit, and I think he'll quit and hope that I'll just nurse him on the other side, and I'll usually have him keep nursing on that side for a while. So um, then sometimes he'll only nurse on one side, and then he'll really seem like he fell asleep, and like half hour, 45 minutes later, he'll be awake and hungry, and he'll want to eat on the other side. So I guess it depends on what he feels like doing.
About, how long does he nurse? And I know this is highly variable from one session to another as well.
I guess I'm not entirely sure. I know it's never as long on the left side. I guess I would say probably 15 minutes tops on the left side. Um,
Okay.
unless sometimes he'll fall asleep a little and keep, like the sleep sucking a little bit. But other than that, probably 15 minutes at the most on the left side. And then
Okay, 15 minutes, 15 minutes per side or, like, 15 minutes combined?
I feel like per side, because he always starts out like slower on the left side.
Okay. Yeah. Alright. And are you, in any pain at all?
Not really anymore. It's pretty much gone. It was more painful for like the first week. Well, the first couple of days, just the colostrum, and it wasn't. so bad. And then once my milk started coming in, um, it was the nipple was just a little worse on the left side, and maybe it's because he was getting less and he didn't really want to nurse on that side. I feel like it's indented a little bit. I'm not sure if that's exactly the best way to say it, but
Yeah, like it has like a little crease. Does it almost look like a lipstick shape a little bit?
there's like a little crease around where like the nipple meets the rest of the breast, and it like is in there a little bit.
Okay. All right. Hey, Lo here. I am just jumping in to say that it's really interesting to record a lactation consultation and then watch myself and see how I respond after the fact, because I pride myself in being a really good listener when people are talking to me about what is happening with them while breastfeeding. But I must say, I was not listening very well to what Ellie was trying to say. And when I rewatched, I thought, oh my gosh, she's trying to say that she has a flat or an inverted nipple, that's the way it just is. And instead, I kept trying to interpret what she was saying as the nipple being misshapen after feeding. So if you caught that, great. We can't be perfect all the time. And Ellie, if you're listening, I am so sorry. I wasn't picking up what you were putting down. The other thing that I did not do is acknowledge to her that, great, you're not experiencing pain anymore, but let's see if we can check out the latch and see if there is a reason why you were experiencing so much pain, even though it is resolved now. So it sounds like I didn't hear her say, yeah, it's not painful. And I get right into like, okay, let's problem solve for the pain you're experiencing. So I acknowledge that happened. I left it in because I wanted everyone to hear how lactation consultations happen, and we're not going to get it right every time. And I encourage you, if I'm doing a consult with you, to stop me and say, hey, you're not listening to me, because sometimes we can get in our heads as we are problem solving and going through what we know clinically to be true. All right. And when he latches, uh, does he seem to have trouble getting a nice wide mouth?
Every once in a while, and then we'll try again if he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really get on there.
Okay. And do you use a pacifier or anything?
Um, I got one because I feel like I will want to use it, but I think I want to make sure he's nursing good first.
Okay. So you haven't tried a pacifier yet.
No.
Okay. Okay. Um, is he hungry right now?
I think he might be. I think he might be. He didn't nurse very long last time.
Yeah. So let's do this. And of course, anyone listening to the podcast, I do put up videos of the podcast on YouTube. But obviously, if I am doing a recorded consultation with somebody, and I need to see a latch, that will not go on YouTube. You will just see me. Um, and I'm giving that as a reminder to listeners, but also to you, that if you feel comfortable, I would like to see him latching, and see what's going on with his mouth, and see if we can make any adjustments either to his positioning or to yours, to see if we can help him get a little more breast tissue in the mouth so that you're not experiencing that pain or that pinchy feeling. Would you describe the feeling, like the
Mm.
painful feeling? Would you describe it as like a biting, a burning, a pinching?
I'm trying to think of what it is now. Like it was burning for a while. These last 2 days have been a lot better. Um, like there was pus coming out and stuff, and then there were scars,
Mm,
and that just pretty much healed mostly by yesterday. So it feels a lot better, but I mean, we'll see here. We'll
okay.
see here.
Okay.
Oh, where's my thing? There we go. Okay. Are you ready?
And do you use like any pillows or anything to try to support him?
Um, I do sometimes. I have a nursing pillow in my room. I just don't have it here, but
Okay. All right.
sometimes I use it. There you go.
And if you could adjust your body, just yeah, there you go, so that I
Yeah.
can see like what he's doing with his mouth and yeah,
Okay,
very
come here.
good.
Come here. There you go. There you go. Okay.
What is your pain level right now?
See it. It's fine right now.
It's a 0
Yeah.
on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay. And when he nurses on that side, um, how long you know how they start? I'm kinda watching what he's doing, so I'm kinda stopping to talk
Right.
from
He's
talking,
fat
just
now. He's like,
seeing
I
his
don't
little
like
chin.
this head, Mom.
So when he, nurses on this side in particular, you know how they start out with kind of that fast suction, and then you kinda notice there's a change when the milk is really flowing and it slows down a bit,
Yeah.
the sucking? Do you know how long it normally takes to get from, like, suck, 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 suck to suck, 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 swallow, suck, 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 swallow?
I guess I don't pay that good attention.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And can you hear his swallows?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just looking to see his swallows. I can't really hear them, but can you tell me will you tell me, like, will you just, like, put a finger up every time he swallows that you can hear?
Okay. Yeah.
S like, let's see, you could just say, swallow. Just say swallow when you hear.
Yeah. Well, you're not being very helpful, are you? You're sitting there doing nothing.
Is he I see his chin, I see his jaw moving. Um, is he is he sucking, or is it more kinda like hanging out with, like, a little tiny non-nutritive suck?
He's just hanging out. He's barely.
Okay, now if you did some breast compressions, so, let me I'll show you. So there's no one right way to do it, but kinda towards the back, towards the chest wall, if like that or like that, yeah. Do his swallows pick up? And think of it
Okay.
as like
He's
go ahead.
sucking more now. He just swallowed once.
Okay. Yeah, so continue that and think of it like as like squeezing a tennis ball. Like that kind of pressure. Not so that it hurts you, but instead of a rubbing, not a rubbing, but a squeezing, a compression. Yeah.
Nope. He just has it in his mouth. That's.
Okay, so he's not doing any
Are you done? Are you done? He's.
now, if you he just swallowed again?
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like when you start the compressions, he does take in more milk. And this is something I would encourage you to do, especially on that mastitis prone side. I don't think it's something you're going to have to always do, but right now, in these first few weeks, while you're establishing your milk supply, helping him to gain a good amount of weight, and you can kind of, you might be more familiar. with this than like a brand new mom, you might know the areas of your breast that feel the milkiest. Like anyone who's watching me right now on the podcast sees that I'm like touching my breast right now. Because if you do like a palpation around your breast, you'll feel the areas that feel like a little more dense, or just what I like to call milky. And so those are the areas where I would, and it might vary from session to session, but those are the areas where I would focus on doing those compressions. And often it's like up high in the chest wall or like back towards the armpit. And that will help your breast to drain more and will give him more milk as he's nursing.
Okay.
And what we are, like a typical pattern, is 3 or 4 sucks for every swallow. Now this is an average, right? So some babies will do a little less than that, some will do a little more. But if you're noticing that he's doing like 7, 8, 9, 10 sucks per swallow, he's probably working pretty hard for every swallow. Um, Sometimes you know, the swallow sound is kind of like a like it's like in the back of the throat. Some people have a hard time hearing it. So the other thing you can look for is the jaw has a slight pause in it at the bottom when he's swallowing. So he's done on that side. He's
He let go. Life.
yeah. And what would happen if you now offered him the right side?
We'll see if he nurses on that side, huh?
Yeah.
Let's look. Come here. Mm-hmm.
And on this side, you have not experienced any pain with him?
Not really. I mean, it was a little sore right away, but that's kind of it.
Okay. And that's resolved itself.
Yep, it's not sore anymore. Are you going to sleep? Are you? You're just done with the world?
He just look at him. He's like, he's like totally relaxed. Yeah. So
Is
how
he good?
is he thinking about it? Or no? Is he still?
I don't
And
think
is
so.
that how?
Pause.
Okay, very good. That's fine. And is that how you usually know that he's done with the nursing session? He just is like milk drunk, totally relaxed.
Usually, yeah. If he won't nurse anymore, then that's usually when I would be done. Yeah.
Okay. And about how,
Whoa.
and does he normally look like that after a feeding session, like relaxed, like really,
A
or does
lot of
he
the
still look
time.
tense sometimes?
A lot of the time, he's usually pretty relaxed.
Oh, I meant to ask at the beginning about how many peas and poops do you think he's getting? And I know, again, you're not going to have an exact number, but if you were to take a guess.
Almost every time he nurses, he goes to the bathroom shortly after that, and it's there might be one or maybe two a day that's just pee, but almost every time it's poop. So
Okay. And when it's poop, it's also pee?
yeah,
Okay. All right.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So, yeah. So when a 2 week old, we would expect to be seeing 6 plus peas a day and 2 to 3 poops a day minimum. So that's one of the major ways that you can know that he's getting enough. When I charted his weight on this chart called the Newt chart, which is it's just online. It's newbornweight.org. And why I like this chart, anyone can use it, but it shows you weight loss and gain percentiles but it takes into account the fact that most babies do lose um, weight in the beginning, whereas all the other growth charts, they aren't taking that into account when they plot it on the curve. So you'll see, and I'll send you um, after our consultation, I'll send you uh, the link to his chart so far. And you'll see on most growth charts, I don't know if you ever look at those, but they have it's like a straight up line from birth, all the way up. And then they plot. So if a baby is in the 15th percentile, then, you want to see them staying on the 15th percentile. If they're in the 60th percentile, you want to see them staying there. But most of them don't take into account the fact that they are losing weight in the beginning. So the percentiles can look a little weird. But with this growth chart, you see that all the babies lose a little bit, and then you just want to see that they come back up. And so right now, on his chart, he uh as of day 11, right, which would have been yesterday, he's doing pretty good. His plot points are looking as we would expect. So that's good. That's another way to know that nursing is going well. Um, and then the other thing I would pay attention to are those suck swallows. So you might notice, is there a big difference between the right side and the left side? Is it 2 sucks for every swallow on the right, but it's 5 sucks for every swallow on the left? You are in kind of a unique situation because you had a baseball sized abscess removed from your left breast. So it is very possible that he may prefer the right side and get more milk out of the right side. However, even people who don't have baseball sized abscesses removed often have one side that produces more than the other. That is really, really common. So I don't want you to feel like you're alone in that. And we see that not only with pumping output, but also in studies of lots of people where we do weighted feeds on both sides. Because pump output is not always an indication of milk supply. It's a hint, but it doesn't give us the full picture.
Right. Yeah.
Now, what I saw in that latch on the left side when you said you had zero pain, like a lot of things are looking really good. Like you have the ear, the shoulder, the hip in alignment. He was tucked in towards you. There was space between his chin and his neck. Sometimes you'll notice if you're feeling a lot of pain, he hasn't stretched his neck out enough, which makes it harder for him to swallow, and it makes it harder for him to get more breast tissue in the mouth. So if you're ever feeling that pain, you didn't just now, but one of the things you can do is focus on bringing his chin to the breast first and aligning it like, below the nipple. So that your nipple is kind of pointed above his upper lip or even kind of towards his nose. And that will allow him to get more breast tissue. And then that nipple won't compress. So that's something you can do in the moment if you're experiencing pain to make a little adjustment. And I'll send you like a video of what that looks like in case you do need to make that adjustment.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as far as milk supply when you're pumping, how regularly do you expect to be pumping?
Um, I mean, I try not to do it unless I have to, or like unless like the other day I just wanted to know, and it's like once every other day just to see. I mean, I was
Okay.
pumping every day for like a week, and then I have done like every other day the past like 4 days just to see.
Yeah. And what about what time were you pumping?
Uh, Usually sometime in the afternoon when I get around to it.
Okay. Okay. And was it always around the afternoon?
Um, I think it has been, yeah.
Okay. And was it like in between feeds? Like he'd already eaten?
It had been like 2.5 hours since he ate, and he would
Uh-huh.
not wake up. And so then I pumped, and then I was like figuring out what I was gonna make for supper. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
So did the pumping end up replacing the feed? Or you pumped and then you fed him when he woke up?
I think he ended up sleeping for like at least another hour, and so then I had him nurse just to because I wanted him
Okay.
to nurse whatever was in there, and then um after he was done nursing, I could tell he was still hungry, and then he drank the whole bottle too. So
Okay. All right. So what if you think do you think you'll continue to pump that regularly just to have like milk stored away, or do you think you might wean off that pumping
mm,
schedule once you feel secure about your milk supply?
well, I guess I don't know.
Mhm.
Like a lot of moms say you should pump some just so you can freeze some and build your supply up. But I don't know. Do you need to? Should I? I don't know how this works.
Okay, so this is the one of the questions you have, you know, how frequently you should be pumping. Okay, so I can there's no should. There's no one answer for this. If he's gaining well, he's relaxed after feedings, um he's you know, he has plenty of pees and poops, all these things that we're looking for. Um and and you are not experiencing extra engorgement or plugged ducts, then it's really up to you whether or not you want to pump to have a little bit of milk stored away. If adding in an extra pumping session while you're also taking care of a 2-year-old and an infant is like a lot of extra work, because not only do you have to pump for that amount of time, you also have to wash the pump parts and wash the bottles and do all of those things, then there's no reason why you have to. But if it makes you feel good to know, okay, I'm pumping and I have a little milk stored away, then you are welcome to add in a pumping session. Given your history, I would be cautious about, um, I would be cautious about over pumping because you did get mastitis and end up with surgery for an abscess. And we definitely don't want a repeat of that situation.
Exactly.
So when you hear that I'm saying like it's kind of up to you, pay attention to your body, pay attention to your baby, what does that make you feel about pumping? Is it like more confusing or does it feel freeing?
Mm. I think that makes me feel okay about it. Like if I feel like doing it, like I'm now once every other day, or even if I feel like doing it once a day, that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you were pumping, I know you said the output on the left side was about a third of the amount than that on the right. What was your total pump output between the two sides?
Um, I've only pumped on both sides together like 4 times. When I
Okay.
was pumping that first week, I was just doing it on the left side when he wouldn't really nurse on it. But the last time I pumped yesterday, and it was about 5 ounces together.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. Okay. All right. So you're getting a good amount. And I don't know if you know that that's a good amount. Do you know that that's like above average for a pumping session?
I have no idea.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That is like a really good amount. And what are you doing with those 5 ounces once you pump it?
Um, I have frozen a couple bags, but also if he nurses and then he doesn't want that bottle, I'll usually, freeze it. But so I froze that one yesterday.
Okay. And are you freezing it in a 5 ounce quantity?
Yeah, just whatever I pumped that time. It's like I think one time I had 4 ounces, and one time I had,
Mm-hmm.
that's just what's in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I noticed he's acting kind of fussy, and you're going to try him on that right side, right?
Yes. There you
So
go.
I'm gonna pause at my questioning and just see how he does on that side.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can tell that you are an experienced breastfeeder because when you bring him to your breast, you're just very calm and confident. You have him aligned really, really well. You both look comfortable. Do you feel comfortable? I know you're sitting in a position that you
Yeah.
normally wouldn't be in because you're um, here doing this consult with me, but do you feel pretty comfortable most of the time when you're feeding him?
Yeah.
Okay. And you have a pain level of 0 right now?
Yeah. What?
Okay. You have a pain level of 0 right now?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and can you get a sense of how many sucks per swallow?
Yeah, it pretty much seems to be like two or three here.
Okay, very good. Yeah, so he seems to be swallowing more frequently on this right side, which is consistent with what you've been experiencing with your pump output as well. Um, yeah, he looks great. He looks great. He's got, again, ears, shoulders, hips aligned. He has a good amount of breast tissue in the mouth. There's space between the nose and the breast, which doesn't always have to happen. That's what nostrils are for, right? But sometimes it
Right.
can give us an indication of him being in a optimal positioning to get a good amount of breast tissue in the mouth.
Yeah.
Um, and same thing, if he starts to get a little wiggly or fussy on that side because maybe the milk has slowed down a little bit, I would encourage you, at least for the first little bit, maybe a few more weeks, um, to do those compressions on that side because it will help the milk drain and will prevent mastitis. Um,
Yes.
so of course, like, if you're out and about, you might not do compressions because, you
Right.
might not want to be squeezing your breast in front of other people. But at home, if you're able to kind of help the milk come while he's strengthening his tongue and his cheeks and his lips and learning how to do all the movements required to get a good amount of milk, I would do those compressions. And of course, you're gonna do the best you can, right? So if it's in the middle of the night and you're really sleepy and you just want to put him there and not do any extra work, that's totally understandable. But anytime you are able to add those in, it will increase the milk output, and that'll be good for your long-term milk supply.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about mastitis prevention
Okay.
because the recommendations have changed in the last few years about what you do when you're starting to feel engorgement. We had a little period of time where my signal wasn't very good and you were kind of cutting out. So if you already told me this, I apologize. But have you experienced any plugged ducts or engorgement in this breastfeeding journey so far?
I I did the first few days that the milk was coming in.
But that
Um,
was it.
yes.
Okay. All right. So, if you ever, and it might be important for you here while you're, I would say for like, the first 3 months or so, because that's about the time when your milk supply is being established. I would just every couple of days make sure you do like some palpations, like pressing into the breast and do it. I don't, I'm going to show my self view so I can see what I look like. So I can make sure I had my self view off. Hold on. Yeah. So you want to, I'm going to scoot back just a little bit. So, like all the way up into the breast and up to the top and down and underneath as well. Just just like when you're in the shower, just to make sure that you don't have any areas that are starting to feel a little hard. Because sometimes it'll start out as a pebble, and then in like a day's time, it'll be like the size of a rock. And then it kind of is like a train that,
That's what I feel like happened the first time. Yeah.
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 Exactly. So just, when you're in the shower, doesn't have to be every day. If you forget, it's no big deal. Or even if you're just sitting there nursing while you're doing those compressions, just kind of feel around and make sure there's no area that feels clogged.
Okay.
And then if you do ever feel an area that feels clogged or just your breasts in general start to feel kind of full and you're not able, you never get that feeling of like relief when after a nursing session, there's a couple of recommendations I'm going to give you. And I will send videos of this first one. There's a great video. It's by Elle Lactation. And if you just YouTube Elle Lactation breast lymphatic massage, it's amazing. And essentially, when you get a plugged duct, which is how mastitis starts, it starts from a plugged duct that does not clear. And so the milk just hangs out there. And then if you're pumping or just through even breastfeeding, although pumping breastfeeding is better than pumping, there's two types of mastitis. There's just like a clinical mastitis, and then there's a bacterial mastitis. And when it becomes bacterial mastitis, that's when you have to take the antibiotics. And that's because bacteria has been introduced to that area where the milk is just kind of hanging out. And so then it spreads infection. Um, and so the reason you get those plugged ducts is not only because of milk. What happens is blood and lymph also comes to your breasts. And when the blood and lymph comes to your breasts, it fills in the breast tissue and squeezes the milk ducts. And when those milk ducts get squeezed, it's like if a hose gets bent. When a hose gets bent or squeezed, a water hose, the water won't come out. It's the same with the milk ducts. So, one of the ways we can open up the milk ducts to let the milk come out is through a lymphatic massage, which gets the lymph out of the area of the breasts so that the milk ducts can then open up again. So the way that you do that, so you have lymph nodes in your armpits and you have lymph nodes on your hip. And so if you ever feel a plug duct or an area of engorgement, or if even just as a preventative measure, but I'll send you the video too. The other thing that I want you to do if you ever feel any areas of hardness or any plug ducts is ice. And I know that sounds counterintuitive because so many people say heat, and that's what we used to say. But now we understand this mechanism that it's the lymph coming to the area, narrowing the ducts. And just like if you sprain your ankle or hurt your knee and you swell, you use ice to reduce the swelling. So all of the protocols are meant to reduce swelling to the area now. So you would put ice directly on those areas. Now, if warmth feels good, especially while you're nursing to help the milk drain, it's fine to add in warmth when you're nursing, or like if you're in the shower trying to clear the duct, you can do that, but I wouldn't do like heat around the clock. That's going to bring more lymph to the area and exacerbate the problem. The other thing that I want you to not do is massage. So, lymphatic massage is different from like, oh my gosh, I have this plugged duct. So, I'm going to try to work at it. And I'm going to, you know, like some people will say, use a vibrator or use like an electric toothbrush on the area. But what that does is it signals to the body, oh man, there's something going on here. And more lymph comes to the area, and then it makes the problem worse. So instead of massaging the particular area where it's plugged, you're going to do those breast compressions during nursing.
Okay.
Any questions about any of that?
What? Sorry, say again.
No, it's totally fine. He's just the cutest. Do you have any questions about any of those recommendations for prevention of overengorgement or plug ducts or mastitis?
Um, no, that sounds pretty good. Like you said, you'll send me a video, so, but I think you explained it pretty well anyway. But yeah,
Yeah,
in
and
the last year or so, I heard about using ice instead of heat, and then it made sense because yeah, that's what they say. Like for your back, that the heat inflames things, and so use ice. And I'd heard that, so it makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And then if you end up pumping a lot, like let's say you end up pumping more than you expect as the months go on, it is important to have properly sized phalanges. And this is something that can be done virtually to get you sized correctly. But I'm not going to have you go through that now because you've already been with me for a long time. You told your story, and now we've done this consult. But we can touch base again if you would like to do a phalange sizing to make sure you have the right size on your pump so that you optimize your milk output.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So with all of that, I know I just talked at you for a long time. Do you have any follow-up questions? Any other concerns I didn't address? Um, anything you're wondering about as we wrap up?
Um, no, but not that comes to mind right now. So
Okay. Great. Well, if you have any, you can reach out, and I'm happy to answer, quick questions that come to your mind along the way, or send you resources that I know of. So, here in the next like 24 to 48 hours, I'll email you a detailed chart talking about everything that we talked about, and with video resources as well, so that you don't have to remember anything that we have discussed. It'll all be there.
thank you. That's good.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad we got to do this. And I
Me
want to
too.
thank you so much for being willing to share your consultation on the podcast.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm so appreciative that we got to do this.
Thank you. Me too.
And there you have it. My first episode in a month. We have surpassed the 2-year mark. So I have been doing this for quite a while now. And I'm so excited to be back. Let me ask you a favor. I know if you are an avid podcast listener, you hear this all the time. But listen, it is so hard to be speaking into the void sometimes. And I have been sponsored in the past, but I am very picky about sponsorships because I need to make sure that I am staying compliant with the code of ethics that I have agreed to, and because advertisements are annoying. I know as a podcast listener myself. So that means that I don't really get paid for this content. I use it as a resource for my own clients and as a way to get the word out there about evidence-based human milk feeding. The way that I know that you are listening is if you rate and review on your favorite podcasting app and follow me on social media. So please do that. It just takes a minute. And I know if you listen to a huge podcast, Fresh Air, This American Life, it might not matter so much, although they still ask you to do it. But us little people, we need to hear that you're listening. We need to hear that you're out there. And so take a quick moment, rate and review. Bye.